Now, back in the good old days, I used to find myself on gigs where I couldn't hear myself, either because the band was too loud or the monitors were ineffective, or more commonly, both. These days, the loudest thing on stage with me is typically a jazz drummer with a small kit and big ears, and I'm thinking of you, Ben Whitman. Hearing myself is no longer an issue for me, but it is for a lot of my students, and perhaps it is for you as well. If you're new here, my name is Chase Sanborn, and I'm a jazz trumpet player based in Toronto. Years ago, I thought about the idea of setting up a personal monitoring system, something that would allow me to at least hear myself when I'm playing with a loud band. It's not the ideal solution to hear only me coming through a set of headphones, but it's more like a measure of self-preservation. At the time, it seemed like too much gear to cart around and set up, and I also felt a little bit self-conscious about being the only member of a horn section to have a monitor. So I never did it, but it's always been at the back of my mind. After I reviewed the U7 wireless microphone from Xvive, I wondered what other products the company might have that would allow me to set up a personal monitoring system like that. Not because I need it now, but more as curiosity about the technology. Xvive suggested pairing the U7 with the U45 in-ear wireless monitor system and the T9 in-ear monitors. In this video, I'm checking that system out, and the usual disclaimer applies. I'm not paid for this review, but they did provide the system for free in return for me sharing my honest opinion. Here's the way it works. The U7 mic transmits to a receiver which would normally go to a mixing board. Instead, I connect it to the matching transmitter for the U45, which sends the signal to a belt pack into which I plug the T9 monitors. It's a compact and self-contained system, and all the components are rechargeable. I've already reviewed the U7 microphone, and I'll link it in the description. The microphone operates on the 2.4 GHz frequency, while the wireless monitor system operates on the 5.8 GHz frequency. If I bring the microphone down close to the receiver on my belt, I hear some interference. But when the horn is up in playing position, it's basically inaudible. Distance isn't a consideration because all the components are in one location. To connect, you select a channel on the U7 and then you run the channel scan on the U45. The next time you turn it on, it'll connect automatically unless you need to switch channels. The whole system is discrete, it requires almost no setup time, and it takes up no room on the stage. The horn sounds clear coming through the T9s, and the volume control on the belt pack lets me dial in just the right amount. To test how the T9s would reproduce other instruments, I listened to music on them, compared with other headphones that I own and a couple that I ordered just for this comparison. My impressions are entirely subjective, and they're based on acoustic jazz because that's what I play and mostly listen to. The lineup includes 2 full-size headphones and 6 pairs of earbuds, including the T9s. The T9s are near the top of the price range, currently selling for about $160 US. I'll start with my top pick, which I used as a reference for comparison, and then I'll give you my thoughts on the rest, moving up the list from the bottom. In first place, as I expected they would be, are the Grado SR60s. These are entry-level headphones from a company that specializes in audiophile products, and they've been my favorites for a long time, based on comfort, sound, and price. The Grados are lightweight and they sit on the ear rather than in it or around it. As a result, there's almost no sound isolation, and that's by design. Aside from being comfortable to wear, they sound more like the music is in the room than in your head. I also like using them with play-along tracks because I can hear the acoustic sound of my trumpet. With the Grados as my reference, I'm going to jump to the bottom of the list. But just before I do, let me remind you that the content on this channel, especially the educational content, is supported by book sales and folks who come to me for online lessons in jazz improvisation, trumpet playing, or any aspect of playing music. You can find out more at chasesanborn.com. Bringing up the rear, in last place, my least favorite headphones in this comparison are the only other ones sold as an in-ear monitor, the Linsol ZS10 Pro. And for my fellow Americans, Z means Z in Canada, and I've lived here long enough to make the switch. On the surface, the Linsols are similar to the T9s in style and design, and they're less than a third of the price. But I found it hard to position them in the ear properly, and the sound was harsh and lacking in bass. Second from the bottom are the Sennheiser IE200s. These are billed as an audiophile earbud from a well-regarded company, so I was surprised to be underwhelmed by the sound quality. They're also the quietest. I had to shove them deep into my ears and crank the volume. Next come 3 sets of Apple earbuds. The AirPods 2 are my go-to headphones because the sound is clear, they connect seamlessly to multiple devices, and I prefer the way they sit in the outside part of my ears. Without sealing the ear canal, they don't have very much sound isolation, but that's fine for the situations in which I use them. I also like that if you wear just one, stereo is converted to mono, so I can get everything in one ear. The AirPods Pro sound richer, and with tips that seal the ear plus active noise cancellation, they provide very good sound isolation. I wear them on airplanes because they're great at canceling engine noise, and they're pretty good about quieting down babies. The problem is they tend to work their way out of my ears, and more than once they've fallen to the floor of the airplane, which is really a pain. Next come the wired Apple EarPods with a thin white cable that became iconic. It's been a long time since I've listened to them, and I was surprised at how good they sounded. They fit in the ear like the AirPods, and for me, that's a good thing. In third place are the Audio-Technica ATH M40X. These are full-size headphones that fit around the ear. They're well regarded for their accurate and flat response, and they provide a fair bit of sound isolation. That makes them very good for mixing, which is what I bought them for. But they're a little bit less involving when listening to music. I also find them to be uncomfortable to wear after a while, despite upgraded ear pads. Finally, we come to the Xvive T9s, which I rank second just below the Grados, albeit they are completely different. They excel on the aspects that are the most important for onstage monitoring, but they also sound very good when you're listening to music. The T9s come with 3 sizes of silicone tips in 2 colors, and also 3 sizes of foam tips. Getting a good seal is crucial because otherwise you lose a lot of the bass. When you do, they block out sound like a really good set of earplugs. When you first put them in, you're pretty aware of sealing up the ear canal, but after a while, I didn't notice them. Unlike the AirPods Pro, which are the only other ones that come close to the same level of sound isolation, the T9s don't work themselves out of my ear. That's partly because of the tight fit, but also because of the formed ear loops, which are comfortable and pretty easy to put on. I can see myself using these on airplanes instead of the AirPods Pro. The 5-foot cable is detachable with a sliding cinch to take up the slack. The color tips make it very easy to tell right from left, and I didn't realize at first what a nice little feature that is. If I'm using the T9 as a personal monitor on stage, I'd only wear one headphone so that I can hear the rest of the band. Horn players do that all the time in the recording studio. Since they're detachable, I wouldn't have the other headphone dangling down. The first word that comes to mind when I listen to music on the T9s is clarity. The tonal balance is rich, and there's a good sense of separation between the instruments. While the Grados give you an impression of the music in the room, the T9s put it all inside your head, and it's an immersive experience. Another thing that you notice right away is that the T9s are louder than any of the others at a given setting. That's a good thing for an onstage monitor because it's easier to turn down than to boost a weak signal. I've heard other reviewers comment that the T9s are large compared to other in-ear monitors, and I presume more expensive ones. I don't have that point of comparison, but the size doesn't bother me, and in fact the chunky body makes it easy to grab hold of, and the clear plastic makes them less visually obtrusive. It also looks pretty cool to see what's inside, which, for the techies, are dual-balanced armatures. So would I choose the T9s as a headphone only for listening to music? If I was in a noisy environment, absolutely. Otherwise, I'll go for the Grados, both for the sound and the comfort. And for casual listening like podcasts, the AirPods 2 will remain my everyday carry. Of course, all of this is in the context of supplementary usage, since the T9's primary purpose is on-stage monitoring. Within this lineup, they'd be my only choice for that. Plus, they function as high-quality headphones in other situations, so that's a bonus. To set up the entire system, including the U7, the U45, and the T9s, the current cost would be about $600 US. That's not nothing, but for a wireless microphone and a complete in-ear monitoring system, which could also be used in a more traditional way with the entire mix fed through the headphones, it seems like you're getting pretty good value. I wish this technology had been around when I really needed it, but let me know what you think. Are you in situations where you can't hear yourself, and would a personal monitoring system be something you would consider? Inquiring minds want to know. Please take a second to click the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.